Okay, I'm recording now. As a reminder, I'm letting people know we're going to have a quiz on Friday, and I'm telling you at least two of the questions right now what are going to be on that quiz. And uh, please refer to the chat box for a description of those questions. UBI, I'll ask about the marginal propensity to consume, what that implies about economic growth. Remember what UBI is? It's essentially a transfer of wealth because it's a tax on everybody. But the people who make a lot more money are going to be taxed more heavily, and that money is going to be redistributed to everyone, including low-income people. Their income is going to go up, and high-income people is going to go down. So it has this sort of redistributing effect. Whether or not you think of it as a redistribution of wealth, it does have that effect. And then I'll ask about what does marginal propensity to consume have to say about the different people in society, and what would be the impact on economic growth. Hopefully that makes sense. And then for education, you should know what this model of first attributed to Michael Spence, but a lot of economists know about it and talk about it. And it's the idea, I'll just tell you now as a review, the idea is that education doesn't make you more productive. So, that's just that's one viewpoint. Not everybody I don't want you to think all economists believe that education is pointless, that you don't actually learn any skills in college. We don't think that. But there happens to be this one model, and it's labor market signaling. I think that's roughly what it's called, that implies that even in this case where college doesn't help you become more productive, there's still a reason to go to college, and that is to signal to your future employer that you're high ability. And in fact, if you don't go to college, your employer is going to have this really negative, they'll infer something about your abilities, which is negative, and therefore your wages will be low. And so that's the model. And now if you take that model and add public schools being tuition free, which is what we're going to talk about today in just a moment, then you will need to think maybe one of our presenters will talk about it. If not, that's something you can think about. What is the implication of that model? We did talk about it last week, but that's okay. I hope we'll get into it a little bit today. If not, I think you'll still be prepared to answer that question on the quiz. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. One other thing I can do, but I'll do it later. I'll do it Friday. Usually we have the for debater go first, then the against. And I think who is for? Manuel? Manuel is for. He is going to be arguing in favor of the notion that public universities should be tuition free in the United States. And I think I should, how do you feel? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Oh, I've got to make you a host. My bad. Co-host. I should have just made you a co-host of this meeting, which means you'll have the power to share your screen, which we hope you will do with us. Do you know how to do it? And yeah, Emmanuel's gonna talk. And just a reminder, this is public schools only, and it's tuition free. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll give you like a stipend to live, like a fellowship or some kind of grant money that goes beyond tuition, which some people will need, right? Just having their tuition isn't going to be enough for some people to afford college. They might also have to work a job to live off of the room and board. So that's not what this debate is about. It's really just about the tuition, hopefully.
My screen sharing? No?
Sorry, no, we don't see you sharing anything right now.
Okay.
At the bottom of the screen, it says share screen. You click that. Oh, there you go.
There it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so let's all give Emmanuel our attention, and he's going to talk to us about free public education. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Emmanuel, and I am arguing for free public education. To start, I will talk about why Americans pursue higher education in the first place. I'm sure every single one of you is in college because you want to make more. That's one of the bigger reasons individuals pursue a higher education. College graduates, specifically those with a bachelor's degree, earn about 71% more in their lifetime. Um, and another reason individuals pursue higher education is lower unemployment. Uh, Americans over 25 with a bachelor's degree have an unemployment rate of about 1.9%, while individuals with just a high school degree diploma have an unemployment rate of 3.9%. And that number kind of fluctuates, especially in trying times like what we have now, recessions and stuff like that. Like as of now, we are a lot of unskilled workers are out of jobs and are really affected by the coronavirus. So that is just another thing. Skilled workers are not nearly as hurt by. I mean, they are, but they're not nearly as hurt by than unskilled workers. Another reason Americans pursue higher education is longer life expectancy. That could be because they have better access to health care, health insurance. About 71% of Americans have with high school or I'm sorry, college degree have a health care, while about 50% with high school diplomas only have or have health care. So before I get into my main points, I'm going to just show you guys or tell you guys some supporting quotes. The first one is college graduates are more likely to find rewarding jobs, earn higher income, and even evidence shows live healthier lives that if they didn't have a degree. And that's from Bill Gates. The next one is from our own professor. If more people are educated, the country is better off. That is from Professor John P. Littell.
I don't like the way my quote sounds. Bill Gates says it much better than me.
Sound bites.
Yeah.
Said a lot more, but I just took that part. All right. Now for my main points. Let's see. Right. So my main points, main points I'm going to discuss today is why we should have free public university, the cost of providing free university to everyone, which I'm sure everybody is most concerned about, and the economic impact of more educated Americans. First point, why we should have free public university. 65% of jobs will require some sort of college degree. That leaves about 35% of jobs that won't require any kind of degree. And that number of unskilled labor is just going to shrink, not only because of, it will shrink because of automation as well. Automation is taking jobs at an increasing rate every year. And, unskilled labor is going to be affected really greatly. Even skilled labor will be affected greatly, but, mostly unskilled labor. So, if this is the case, we have to be able to provide access to individuals or just pretty much everyone that wants to have an education, because if we don't, it's going to affect the American economy greatly. So at this rate, people are getting degrees. America could fall 5 million short of workers without degrees, with some sort of degrees. And I'll talk about that more, the impact it could have on the economy. But we really have to find a way to give access to people that want college degrees. Second point, the cost of free public education. It's actually more feasible than you might think. It is still a lot of money, but it is more feasible than you might think. So the cost of providing free public education is $79 billion. And yes, that would be taxpayer money. However, we are already spending taxpayer money, about $91 billion worth, in subsidizing student attendance already. So that being said, let me give you the breakdown of what that $91 billion consists of. So $37 billion went towards tax credits and other benefits. $41 billion went towards aid for low-income students and military. And that 41 billion, by the way, is 51% of the 79 billion needed. And just so everyone knows, I did get this information from the National Center of Education Statistics. So yeah, that 41 billion needed is about 51% of the 79 billion we need to fund free public education. And $13 billion went to subsidizing interest payments. That being said, the way we pay for this is, if not taking just some of that money, taking all of it and putting it towards free public education. I think that's a way more efficient way to use taxpayer dollars than, putting it towards these subsidized student programs. Although it does help, I'm sure, a number of students, maybe some in this class, I think there's a more efficient way of doing it in making college education free as a whole. And what better way to spend American tax dollars than providing education to everyone? And for my third point, the economic impact. Here we go. Economic impact. So individuals with bachelor's degree contribute $278,000 on average to the local economies through their lifetime. They also contribute $44,000 of local and state taxes, and these local and state taxes they go towards the advances in civil services, enhance infrastructure, they fund public schools, and they support arts. So you have to think, if everybody had access to public education, it doesn't mean that everybody is going to automatically become a college graduate. Every single individual is going to then attend college. That's not going to be the case. People still have the option of whether they want to attend or not. However, the people that didn't have access to it before are now going to have access to it, which is going to really help grow the economy. I mean, you look at these numbers, this is just one individual. You look at that on, if you increase the amount of people that might attend college because we have free college now, this is going to really, really help grow the economy on a micro and a macro level. Data shows that economic growth for local and state government in terms of buying for people with college degree increases local and state government in terms of buying power, increased earnings, and productivity, and the capacity to give back. So to recap, with more jobs requiring a college degree and automation taking jobs, it's important for everybody to have the opportunity for higher education. The government can definitely pay for this free public education. You just have to be more efficient with it. And there will be huge economic growth if everyone has access to higher education. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Nice. Here's my clap on my screen. Thanks, Manuel. Anyone have any just real quick sort of clarifying questions, something they didn't understand about his talk?
Could you go back to the part where you're talking about the breakdown of the 91 billion that's already being used to subsidize student attendance? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? I don't think I heard it properly, but I think that's just me.
So you just want the numbers, the breakdown of what we.
Yeah, because I don't know if there was a visual for that, so I didn't know if it was.
There's a visual, so I can tell you. Like I said, it was. Give me a second. It was $37 billion went towards tax credits went towards tuition tax credits and other benefits. Tuition tax credits are some of the benefits that, we can actually take advantage of as students. I'm not necessarily sure of the other tax credits, but we can get refunded up to a certain amount when we file our taxes. And I'm sure that's part of the tuition tax credits they're talking about. I'm not necessarily sure of the other ones, but there might be other ones. $41 billion went towards aid for low income and military students. That would include the Pell Grant for low income students, and obviously, funding for military individuals. I'm not a military individual, so I don't know how that works. And 13 billion went to paying subsidized interest payments. That means while the individual is in school, the government's paying your interest for you.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
sounds good. Yeah, we can debate a little bit more later, after Kevin's gone. I want him to have a chance to make his presentation. I just made you the co-host. Do you see it?
Yeah, I just saw that. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I actually just wrote like a long summary, really. But I can definitely provide a rebuttal to.
Well, yeah. Well, first, before we may give a special another round for rebuttals, but for now, just present your case against the notion that we should have tuition-free public education. Do you want to share? So what do I do here?
I could log in here. Let me try this.
Spotlight video. What does that do?
So I'm currently on my iPhone, but what I can do is go on to.
I think this is okay. I think I spotlighted you.
Okay.
So now everyone has to pay attention to you because you're big. I think so.
Well, this could work. I'm joining without video again. Now I might as well just go ahead with my presentation.
Okay.
Get everything ready here. Okay, hello everyone. I'm arguing against free education, against taxpayer-funded college and university education. So I don't believe it would make people more efficient. I don't believe that it would create more efficiency in the workforce. I'm going to talk a little bit about Michael Spence and his groundwork. Really, he wrote the job market signaling paper. He basically talks about how there's an uncertainty that employers have when they hire. It's like an investment. Every hire that you have, every employee that you hire is an investment, because there's no way to tell whether they're going to be good or bad, really. So his argument is that college education, while it does help an employer, it helps them, like the employees stand out in a way. It doesn't really, it doesn't say that they're going to be more productive. It doesn't really give you like a, that like surefire answer of their productivity. It may signal toward it, but nothing is like for sure. Now, if you were to make this tuition free, if you were to make it, if you were to take away the incentive, I believe that there's an incentive that students have when they pay or like if they have a financial obligation. I believe that they would feel more endowed to their 4-year degree if they had to pay for it, or if they had to take out a loan and pay for it. Like, I feel like the weight of that degree would mean more, not only to them individually, but it would weigh more on our society. And in order for that to happen, the student needs to bear the total burden of the tuition costs. I do agree that children need to receive, at the very least, a state-funded public education up to age 18, like elementary school, middle school, high school. But when you're at age 18, I believe that you need to start really making decisions for yourself. I believe that people on an individual basis need to have some sort of like an individual responsibility. Else, I believe it would reduce productivity and efficiency. So yeah, I believe a number of problems would arise with if the cost is paid for by taxpayer dollars. I already talked about how college students feel less endowed. Okay, so attending a public university is by and large an invaluable experience. So like, let's say like VCU, we got like 30,000 students. That includes undergraduate and graduate. There's a lot of diversity here. Basically, we're in like our own little, it's like a community, it's like a city within itself, a city within a city. And you have people within college age and like, the late teens to early to mid 20s. You have professors that provide leadership, and all these college students, they want to make something of themselves. They want to make something of their lives and, the lives around them. So like, I agree with my opponent in the sense that college, it would provide somebody that personal utility. But I believe that if it was free, then that utility would be decreased. It would be less. I feel like there would be more dropouts. People would not take their course of study as seriously, and it would not be good in the long run. I believe that college students need to see competition with one another in a way with grades, and that would be taken away as well. Okay. And my other point is that I compared basically free education. There are some countries in Europe that offer free education to to college students. They have a more homogenous population, and they have, I suppose, they see college professors like civil servants, so they can get away with paying them less. They pay them about. So I actually went on. It was a paper. I found a paper that basically gave like a breakdown, and it said that a college professor in Norway, they were paid about 57,200 NOK, which exchanges out to about $5,627 per year for a salary for the college professor. I believe that one of the reasons why education is so great in the US is because professors also have a greater incentive to teach. They're paid well. They're not seen as civil servants because, you have to have a PhD in Europe to get the job as well. But I feel like here, since there's no nationalization of college, there's more of an incentive for professors to teach. The tuition money that students pay provides a greater funds pool so that professors can be paid better. They can have a better allocation overall, as well as faculty. So we can also talk about zero interest student loans or like very low interest student loans. I think that would be a good thing. In 2010, Barack Obama the Obama administration nationalized student loan companies, which is why our interest rates for student loans are unbelievably high. And it cost taxpayers already $36 billion in 2010. So that was a loss. And many students pursue their degrees and don't end up like using that degree. They don't end up using the course of study. It becomes inapplicable to the workforce they enter. I don't believe that taxpayer dollars should have to pay for these mistakes that people make, the mistaken pursuits. I believe that burden should be put on to people by and large. And that's about it. That's my presentation.
Okay, thank you. I will cancel the spotlight video. Oh, wait, I didn't do anything. Okay. Anybody have any questions or clarifying issues they want to bring up? Emmanuel, do you want to take some time, think about anything that he said and respond? Kevin, you can also, um, I don't know if you have anything you want to say, or maybe you want some time, or if you are you ready to go now, Emmanuel?
I could say a couple. Yeah, I could say a couple things. So, he mentioned that, that up until 18, that we should, or, however long it takes you to get out of high school, that you should, the government should make the decision for you to go to school. And then after the fact, you should be able to make the decision yourself. And I think, honestly, we're in that sense, we might be arguing for the same thing because the decision, that's exactly what we want. We want people to be able to make the decision for themselves in the sense that, not everybody can make that decision. It's already made up for them because they don't have access to the funds to attend college. So that being said, it's like, it's not a feasible thing for them to do. So yeah, so I don't think they because college is so expensive and it's getting increasingly more expensive that they can make that decision. So yeah, we do want them to be able to make decisions for themselves. He mentioned, the dropout rate might be higher. I think, if we did have free public universities, the same standards would apply, maybe even higher standards would apply if we had free public universities, in the sense that the colleges still have to, right out of high school or right out of your community college, whatever it is, they would have to have that specific GPA that you are required to have before entering into the university. You have to have the certain test scores. You just have to be the student that they want you to be before you enter into their college. And, so I think I think the dropout rate would practically be the same, if anything. I don't really think it would increase because these universities are still going to have the same standards as before. Maybe a slight increase in the amount of students they admit, but they don't have to. Nobody's asking them to admit every single student that applies to their school just because college is free. And another thing he mentioned is professors might be paid less. I don't exactly know what the 79 billion I mentioned was comprised of, but I do believe that that number was pretty much all the expenses of the school, tuition, and what it might take to pay the teachers. So there's a possibility that they wouldn't get the same, pay increases that they're used to, but they would they couldn't be asked to be paid less or take less money. So I don't think they would get paid less. And the last thing I think I'll mention is the zero interest student loan is impossible because, especially if you're an 18-year-old coming out of high school with no credit at all, and you go to a bank to ask to take out a loan for school, that's an extremely unsafe investment. So unless you have a really great cosigner, the interest rate has to be high. So zero interest is impossible.
Maybe he's saying the government would provide that, not a bank. Is that what you were saying, Kevin? That maybe a government could give them a loan instead of just paying for their tuition, they could give them a loan. Something like that?
Yeah. So I believe that I think that the fact that the government took over that business, since the business was nationalized, I think that student loans took a hit. Now I'm not like, so yeah, I do agree. I think that having zero interest student loans, I mean, that would be bad. Like the student needs an asset, something to put the loan like up to, or put the interest, and the interest would be like them kind of, I guess that's like they're forbearing an asset. They're saying this is like you can take interest in me because you can invest in me. I will, provide a good product and a good human capital.
You guys know currently student loans have low interest rates, but you can't get rid of them. You can't declare bankruptcy and say, okay, I'm no longer going to pay off these loans, those loans will stay with you your whole life. At least the way it's, unless someone like Bernie Sanders gets elected president and in a very progressive Congress along with him, those student loans are permanent. So it's kind of like, you know, a regular loan, you do have to have collateral, right? A bank's not going to give you a loan unless they have some collateral. And if you don't pay it, they'll whatever they can get back from you. Maybe it's even just a small fraction of what they loaned you. So they'll take a loss on you when that happens. But after that, you're free of this debt. Whereas student loans never go away. They're attached to you as a person. And if you get a job 40 years later, you'll still be responsible for this money that you took out for college. So I mean, I guess my point is, it's not like one is better than the other. They both have their ups and downs. And right now, student debt is a huge issue for people. We could have had a whole week just on that, on whether there should be student loan forgiveness, because there's not agreement about that. But yeah, I just wanted to make this point that currently student loans are low interest, not zero interest, but relatively low interest, but they stay with you your whole life. So they're not like this great thing. Definitely you should get a student loan. Why not? It's there, you just get it. You should be cautious when you get it. It's not like a regular loan where they have a certain amount they can get from you, but that's it. Student loans, they stick with you, even past bankruptcies. Okay, that was Kevin, were you done? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I guess I just had a point too, that I think that they are low interest loans when you pay them off on time, but they're compounding interest from what I understand. So like if a student decides, like if a student in their late teens or early 20s who really is not responsible with money decides, hey, like I'm just gonna put this off, I'm not even gonna think about this, they get caught up in a lifestyle, and then next thing you know, these compounding interest rates have been. I feel like this is like a hole that the student loan companies use to kind of get more money. And
I mean, to be fair, all loans have compounding interest that I know of. That's just a feature of, you're better off paying your loans earlier than waiting. That's true for everything, I think. Maybe we should bring in the audience. If anyone has any points that were not made yet, I would love to hear if someone has something they want to say that hasn't been said yet. Go ahead, Colin.
So I think I have 3 points. If it's shocking to anyone, I'm for public free education. So first off, I don't think either candidate really mentioned this, but the more educated a citizenry, the higher the econometrics that are correlated with that education are. So like if you're more educated in that country, there are increases to things like employment, to GDP, to overall economic growth. So there are a number of different studies, at least in my research, that I found that if there is more higher education present, there is higher economic growth. So
I think Emmanuel did something like that. He talked about people who are higher educated sort of bringing more to the economy. I think that's what he meant.
Yeah. So just from what I heard, it sounded like on an individual level. I'm just was clarifying that extends to a national level. Second, there was a point earlier about the paying of college professors. That was kind of my first question in my research as to what, if college tuition became free, then wouldn't professors, adjuncts, faculty, would they suffer economically? Would they be paid less? And out of the top 10 paid college professors, like by country, US is number 6, and the countries above us include countries that have universally free public education. And the average rate that I found for a Norwegian professor actually is around 790,000 Norwegian krones, which translates more accurately to like $85,000 a year, which with the benefits of all of their, socialized healthcare and education like that, there's a little bit more marginal utility there for them. And finally, it did seem like some of the arguments, I know Emmanuel talked a little bit about automation, but I want to leap back in because that's kind of another thing that I'm really gung-ho about is if we don't have a means or method to introduce education more viably to more and more of the citizenry, jobs that are not requiring of a college degree are going to evaporate. So if you take like service industry jobs, automate, like any job that is a repetitive, unskilled task is going away in the next 30 years. So we need to come up with a system. It may not necessarily be free public education, but we need to figure out a way to combat the fact that a bunch of unskilled jobs aren't going to be here. And we can't really necessarily ask every individual as soon as they turn 18 to suddenly indebt themselves between $20,000 and $100,000 in student loans, which, as you said, will just follow them.
Yeah. Can I have a follow up to that? Let's imagine that 90% of us go to college. We do this, and do you think there's enough jobs out there for these 90% of the labor pool to get, let's say there's automation, and what we need are technicians and engineers to design and to implement this new form of automation that governs our economy in the future. I'm just wondering if it's really feasible for so many people to go to college that they can all get jobs that require that college education. In other words, it's not good enough just to educate more people. You also have to have a demand for that labor that is supplied. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Of course, automation is coming, and we should prepare for it. But is the best way to prepare to take, let's say, somebody who's not sure whether or not they want to go to college and nudge them to go by giving them free tuition? More people who are like on the margin, I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to go. Would that, if anything, that do you think, I'm asking, do you think that may have a negative effect where there's just a huge pool of a labor supply and a relatively small demand for that sort of labor that could actually be detrimental to the people who have those skills, or at least their wages would go down? And I'm just saying, I'm not sure that's the point of automation. Didn't you shared something about how the guy was sad that the robot took his job. We don't want that. What we want is people to be happy that I don't have to do this anymore because a robot can do it. Well, if we still have this mentality that everybody needs to work to like manage the robots, I think that could be detrimental. Don't know. I really don't know. I'm not sure. I'm saying there's good and bad points to that. Let's bring in everybody else and other sort. I want to ask everybody, let's say we do this like today, free college education. What do you think happens to the enrollment at VCU? Does it go up? What would you predict? Like next year? Does the enrollment go up, you think? Forget about the pandemic too. That's weird. Let's say there's no more pandemic. We have enrollment, Kevin, I think you said 30,000, or maybe it was Emmanuel. But if we have 30,000 students, how high would that go, do you think? Do you think it would go to 50,000? Do you think it would go to 70,000?
I think any school that implements, or any public school that implements free tuition, what's called attendance or more enrollment will go up by a substantial amount. I would say, realistically speaking, in person speaking, I don't believe that VCU has the infrastructure to manage 50,000 students. Especially they want to come and stay on campus with like incoming freshmen and stuff like that. It'll be extremely difficult for them to manage that. But generally speaking, yes, I do believe that attendance would rise by a substantial amount. Enrollment.
I think, I think my opinion is that it depends critically on how the universities are paid. If they're paid by the government a tuition for each student, and there's no cap to it, then I sort of agree. We would have the incentive to admit as many people as possible to get that cheese from the government. But I suspect if we passed something like this, it wouldn't be unlimited. It wouldn't say, take any school anywhere, charge any tuition you want, admit anybody you want, and the government will pay for that tuition. That just wouldn't make sense, right? We didn't talk about that policy specific things, but I think it matters. And I think if we were to implement something like this, you would have to make sure the incentives for the colleges aren't to grow as big as possible, to admit everybody as possible. Don't even care if they graduate because you get their tuition money. What we want are our public schools to be competitive, don't we? And be actually more selective. What if this, so now I'm kind of arguing like maybe, before it kind of sounded like this was a bad idea. Here's something that might make it a good idea. What if schools don't increase their enrollment? They have to, for some reason, the incentives are there so that they have to keep their enrollment approximately the same, but they're going to get a lot more applications, aren't they? A school like VCU would get a lot more applications. What does that mean? It means they could be more selective. It means the average quality of the students at VCU may actually go up. If your acceptance rate goes down, think about it that way. If your acceptance rate goes down, that means your average quality of your student should go up. That would essentially be a benefit to public universities that private universities don't get. We didn't talk about private universities. What happens to the relative comparison between public and private universities with this? I believe as long as there's these caps to enrollment or other incentives, that you're giving private universities, public universities, an advantage over private ones. But maybe this is a good thing. We haven't talked about it yet, but private universities are something that wealthier Americans have access to and lower income Americans don't. And it sort of could be part of this perpetuating intergenerational differences in wealth inequality that we would rather not see. So gosh, there's no time to talk about this, but that's another, you could argue that's a good thing about providing free public institutions, is to lower any sort of perceived disparity between public and private so that you're increasing the intergenerational mobility of lower income families. Okay. You guys did a good job. I think we should wrap it up. If unless anybody has any other comments, what else did I write down? Various things. We talked about college debt, individual responsibility. I thought that was interesting. Of course, I'm not sure that responsibility would have less responsibility if I don't know. I think it's more like we do want people to take college seriously. And if it were free, do you think people would take it less seriously? I think Kevin was kind of making this argument. I'm curious if the rest of the class agreed. If you didn't have to pay for college, would you care less about it? Would you, not come to class, not do your homework assignments? I don't know. What do you think? Anybody from the audience want to chip into this?
I mean, if college is free, I mean, it would just, I would actually be more incentivized to go. I mean, maybe I won't like cry as much about certain things. Are we talking about like tuition free or everything's free?
Oh, just tuition free. If college were tuition free, would that make you care less about like getting good grades?
I would still care about getting good grades, but I won't cry too much if I fail a class because I know I can just retake it for free.
Good point. Good point. So actually, maybe it makes you less stressed, but not necessarily less active in your classes. But that is a good concern. I mean, I really don't know the answer to that. We don't want students to just come to college, blow it off, and then if they drop out after 3 or 4 years, they don't care. They still had fun partying. We actually don't want that to happen. I can speak from experience as an instructor. Classes are much better when students care about what it is you're talking about. So I appreciate you guys participating in this debate. It is the end of the class. I didn't take the poll. I didn't do the poll for if anybody wants to volunteer, if they like to switch their sides based on what I will read your homework that you submitted about whether you're for or against it. If anybody wants to volunteer that they switched, go ahead. But I'm not going to bother to keep that. Thank you guys, Kevin and Emmanuel. We will meet on Friday at the normal time and talk a little bit more about this income inequality. But I will want to have our quiz. Let's say towards the beginning of class. During class, we will have quiz 3, and then I'd like to stick around and have a little lecture afterwards too. Do you guys have any questions?
Professor, can I talk to you after class?
Yeah. Do you want to stick around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good couple days.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I'm going to stop recording.